Hey guys, what's up? Nate here from Protoculture, and welcome to this tutorial series on how to use Cubase 12. So Cubase 12 has just been released. We're going to be taking a look at a lot of the new functionality, as well as some stuff from Cubase 11. A lot of these features from 11 have actually been expanded in this version 12. Quite a few things that were introduced and then been refined in this version 12 release of Cubase. And we'll cover some things in general as well. So you can kind of consider this series to be an addendum to a lot of the videos that we have at Sonic Academy already. This is not going to be a how to use Cubase 12 from the ground up. It's some of the more advanced features and some of the new features that have been included. If you are new to Cubase and you want to start learning from the beginning, go check out some of the other videos. A lot of that stuff still applies, even though they are based on older versions of Cubase. Go through those and then you can come back and check out the new features in this series. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at arguably one of the best and biggest new features inside of Cubase 12, and that is the MIDI Remote API, or MIDI Remote scripting process. So Cubase previously, you could do a bunch of stuff using MCU protocols, Mackie control protocols, and not so much via MIDI. You could assign MIDI to certain parameters like quick controls, but a lot of this has been made a lot easier now with the new MIDI Remote API or system that they have installed. So we're going to dive into this and kind of show you how to build your own scripts from the ground up. If you're lucky enough to have a controller which is already supported, that's great. It'll make your life a little bit easier. But chances are you're still going to want to be able to upgrade or remap some of those features as well. So let's get right into this, and I'll kind of walk you through the whole process and what you can do with this feature. So you'll notice now when you open up the lower zone, if I've got a shortcut for that, you've now got, aside from your mix console, editor, sample controls, etc., you've also got this MIDI remote field that will pop up here. At any given time that you want to edit this outside of this, for example, if you want to go back to any of these, you can just disconnect that from the lower zone, and you can now do your editing inside of this. You'll see it's just pretty much just a copy of what we have down at the bottom. Right here on the left, you can have a list of all the MIDI controllers. You'll see when you're in this sort of home mode, all this stuff that I have currently in here that I've been working on is available. You can at any time select one of these to put it in focus. You'll see right now I have my Native Instruments machine controller up and running here, and I can change, depending on the pages for the machine, change things there. I can move between different ones, quick controls, etc. Depending on which MIDI hardware you have, it will determine on how the page system works. Because the Native Instruments stuff has page abilities built into the hardware, that's why I've done these as separate sections where you've got sort of copies of the same controls. But it will vary from controller to controller. Some of those you will actually want to set up mapping pages as well, which can be found up here. But let's get out of that. We'll just come back in here again and look at the MIDI control list. So you have all your loaded scripts, status whether it's connected or not. You can disconnect these by clicking on one and clicking disable controller script, which will stop it from working at any given time. You can show the script info here. You can see these are ones that I've built. There's a list of all the mappings in the top here as well. And you can export and save these scripts to send them to other people or take them to another studio and have your controller working in another instance of Cubase. You'll see also here under the script section, there's a number of ones that are supported at launch. There will be more of these as more developers start to adopt this system. So you can load up one here if you have one of these, like say for instance the Arturia Keylab. These are already pre-built for you. So let's come back to this. I'm going to disable the controller script for the S61, so I've removed it from the system now, and you'll see it's now missing from the current MIDI controllers section here. And what I'm going to do in this video is we're going to basically rebuild that from scratch, just to show you the whole process of how this works. So we're going to go to add controller surface, and you'll see down at the bottom here we've got a window that pops open, and we're going to want to select our input and output ports. So we're going to go with input and output from the complete control. We're going to say vendor, Native Instruments, model, complete control S61 MK2. So we can click this right arrow here, which is going to be add MIDI control, and open the editor. So there you go, we've got a new controller set up with no controls in it just yet. We're going to have to start adding those in. Now before we continue, depending on your controller as well, you may need to set up MIDI parameters or MIDI CC parameters on your hardware. That's going to vary from device to device. In my instance, for example, with the Complete Control, you need to open up the Complete Control software as standalone mode, and you can come into this MIDI settings over here, and here you can actually decide which CC control numbers you want to have added in here. And once again, I'm not going to use the pages inside of Cubase because I have a page control button on my hardware here. So I have knobs, buttons, keys, pedals, touch strips, etc. And the knobs, I have page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, and I can do the same for the buttons as well. So you'll see these all have different CC values. Some of these I've renamed. We're just going to be working with a single page in this case, and I've renamed these as well. So those will display on the displays on my keyboard here. So that's all good. Like I said, that's going to change from hardware to hardware. You'll have to just kind of figure that out, whatever software ships with your controller. So let's get to setting up some controls here first. So the first thing is we need to actually insert these physical controls onto our layout page here. And we're going to try and copy the S61 Mark II as best as possible. So we've got 8 knobs along the top. So we're going to go select a knob button here. I will just drag these out to, let's say, I can't remember what the exact distance was that I did, but we can do one there. Once you've got your format selected there, all you're going to need to do is, it's automatically in learn mode. You're just going to need to push that button on your controller. So we'll push that one. You'll see it actually automatically generates a new knob for me, so I can carry on pushing. I'll go second knob, third knob, fourth knob, fifth knob, sixth knob, seventh knob, and eighth knob. So now we've got all the 8 knobs from the controller programmed onto our layout here. Now, just leave that as a button. Just going to click in an open space here, and we're going to select knob this time around. We're going to bring this down, so we've got a knob available to us here. Again, we've got 8 knobs available here. Now, one thing that you need to realize with the S61 Mark II is they're actually touch sensitive, so you can use the knobs as, or the dials as knobs as well, just by touching the top. We don't want that in this case. I want these to be the rotational value, so we're going to just turn that, turn the second one, turn the third one, turn the fourth one, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. So now we've got our 8 knobs in here. You see it again automatically created that 9th one there for us. And that is pretty much all that we need in this case to set up this controller. I may just bring these down just to kind of create a little bit more space for us here. There we go. So now we can kind of get started with actual mapping of our controls. I'm going to quickly just bring this up into its own window again so that we kind of just move this over to the left here. So we've got our editor open once again. We're going to just select one of our controls now, and you'll see that we have control change channel 1, 112. That is what the CC value is on our controller. But we're wanting to assign this now to our controls inside of Cubase. So I'm going to carry on how I've set this up before. We want to open up our mapping assistant, which is going to be found up at the top here. You click open mapping assistant. This is where you're going to choose what to assign things to. And you can pretty much do anything in Cubase. It can be logical presets, it can be shortcut commands, whatever you want. In this case, we're going to kind of do a bit of mapping that's going to give us access to our channel strip, stuff like low cut and high cut frequencies for the filters, mute, solo, edit instruments, and so forth. So let's get down to applying some mapping to these now. So in this section over here, we are doing the first knob now. We can go and click it in Cubase. I find it more useful to use the function browser So the way you map it now is you have an option between just clicking it or using via function browser, which is hidden currently, or you can click this, which is going to be a via right click. So at any point you can right click on a function somewhere in Cubase, like on this fader, for example, and we can just say pick for MIDI remote mapping. In this case, the edit channel settings, we can pick that one. And now that is assigned to edit channel settings already. We can also do this via the browser. If you click this little button here, you'll be able to look and browse through all of the available functions that you have, including key commands, mix console stuff, and all sorts. We'll use that for some of the other ones. Right, so that is that one mapped. We may need to come back and change a few things just depending on how the action of the button is going to work, but let's just continue from here. Channel settings, we're going to apply mapping to that one. Just make sure that you hit apply, and you'll see once it's registered, it'll be in this mappings box down at the bottom. And now you see you also have a couple of functions down at the bottom here where you can either toggle or use as a button. Now this again depends on the hardware, because I have options to set these to toggle natively on the hardware itself. So it may be that we need to switch the toggle mode off on this, but we're going to test that in just a sec. In fact, we can do that right now. Let's just move this over here. So if we're on this channel and we hit edit, and you see it's not having the functionality we want there, we're going to have to set this to off. Now it is functioning the way that I want it to. You can see on, off, on, off, on, off. Just close that down. And there we go. So that button is functioning correctly now. So just remember, if any time something's like taking a couple of clicks to turn it on, you're probably going to want to turn the toggle mode off in that section. So let's open up our mapping assistant once again. We're going to do the same for the instrument now. So button number 2. So this button number 2, I want to set this to open instrument. Now we don't actually have an instrument open at the moment. So what we can do is we can come into this section here, look on selected track, I believe, and we can pick edit instrument from the menu. So if this was an instrument track, it would open up the instrument track for us in that case. So now we can just apply the mapping again. You'll see it's now added it, and once again we will make sure that toggle is off for this one, so it has done that by default. So we can continue with these now. This one I'm going to set up as a previous track, so we can actually just search here as well. Select previous track, and we'll click apply mapping. And this one we're going to go select next track. We'll apply mapping there. And moving on, we're going to get into our low cut and high cut controls. Let's do low cut first. So we have low cut frequency. This is on the selected track. Input filter, we want to turn low cut on with that button. We'll apply mapping again. This one we're going to turn the high cut on. This button we're going to do mute. So we can just type in here again. This is really the easiest way to do it, just by selecting from this channel of options on this side. Mute, and let's go solo, which is going to be this one here. Apply mapping. So there we have it. We have all our buttons mapped correctly now. And if we close this down, notice that it's actually automatically added in the correct icons. The color is coming from our channel settings there. So if we change the color on that channel, it should update automatically on this as well. So you'll always know which channel you're on for the controller. Let's continue with our other mapping now as well. So we can again open up the mapping page. And let's do our rotary knobs now. So we'll select this one is going to be our volume. Selected track volume, apply mapping. Now, there's also a couple of things here that you can set up. You can have absolute jump mode, which means it will jump to wherever the controller is. You can also do pickup. So you'll turn the controller and nothing will happen until you reach the position where it currently is at, and then it will take over. It's kind of like the pitch control on a CDJ 2000, when you often won't let you change the pitch until you actually come back to the current pitch, and then it'll pick up the control and you can move it from there. So that's going to be our volume. We're going to do, this one is going to be our panning control. Now this one, in this case, just make sure that you have the right panning here, because we've got the Q panning. Select the track, we want pan left, right. Apply mapping to that. This one, we are going to do the gain on our pre-section, input filter gain. We'll apply that to there. This is just handy for gain staging on your channels, not just the volume, but you can also adjust the gain. This one, we're going to set up an AI knob. So AI knobs are interesting in Cubase, and this comes from some of the Steinberg controllers as well. They have a system on their CC121 controllers and some of the older little clip together controllers that they did at one stage. I forget the name of the series, but you have a AI knob which basically gives you knob access to anything that's underneath your mouse cursor. You can also set up a control to lock it in place, so you could say, for instance, hold this here over a control, hit lock, and then move the mouse away and still have AI control over whatever was locked in place. But we're just going to do an AI thing. This is really, I like to have this in place just to be able to record stuff. Just hover my mouse over a cutoff control, for example, and my AI knob will automatically give me the ability to manually adjust that with a knob rather than the mouse function. So we're going to go here and we're just going to do AI. And we're going to have to look for the AI controls here. There we go. So we're looking at mouse pointer, AI knob. This is going to be value at mouse pointer is the one that we want to use here. I'm just going to click on that and apply mapping. So we've got a AI control now. Let's move on to the next one. This one we're going to match up to the low cut on and a high cut on. We're going to set this to high cut, or sorry, this one should be the low cut frequency. And we'll click there and apply the mapping. This one is going to be our high cut frequency. Apply mapping. And lastly, sorry, I should have actually done this the other way around. Let's just do this one. This is going to be our high cut frequency over there, the fourth one actually. We'll do low cut frequency is going to be this one. And for this one, I actually want the low cut slope. So we'll just remap that. This one as well, we're going to remap that to the high cut slope so we can adjust how steep our filter is going to be as well using our controller. We'll set that to high cut slope and apply. And there we have it. We've got a set of controls that we've set up now. So as I said, if we wanted to use the same CC that we currently have on here without having to change the pages on the S61 Mark II, we could go here now and actually create a new mapping page as well. So currently we are in the default page. We could add in a second page here and call this extra page, for example. So notice now that all the mapping is completely cleared. So we could actually go and start mapping something else to this now. So let's say selected track. Let's go to EQ, for example. We can just go band 1 frequency. We'll add that in there. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing. We'll just do that for now, just so I can illustrate what's happening here. And you'll see now you have a control here that you can switch between the pages. So we can close this down now, and let's have a look. At any given time, we can switch between the pages here. And if I wanted to open up this channel, for example, now we have the edit command there. And let's say I want to adjust the frequency for this EQ band here. We can switch the page to extra page. And now when I dial this, we're changing the EQ frequency. And then again, if we come back to the default page, we open up that channel, that is going to actually be changing our volume. So you can see my volume fader is currently working correctly. My panning left to right is working. I've got gain over there for my gain staging on the pre-section. I've got an AI knob, which I can show you as well. So for example, if we wanted to adjust the EQ frequency here, all I need to do is leave my mouse pointer there and I can take the AI knob and I can adjust that accordingly with my controller rather than using the mouse. So it's pretty handy for recording stuff. Let's move on. We've got our low cut frequency here, and you'll see nothing is happening currently on this channel. That's because we haven't turned on the filters yet. So we go filters on and off, and there we go. We've got low cut frequency. We can adjust the low cut slope, so we can have a steeper low cut filter. I think that should be at about 48 dBs now. There we go. And we can come back down to 12 dBs as well. And we can do the same for the high cut slope and bring that down as well. As for the buttons, let's double check those two. We're going to add an instrument track here. Let's open up an instance of Anna 2. Right, so now you see we've changed colors automatically there. For some reason, we have locked that function, so that is not letting us edit that. But if we go down here, we can edit the instrument. That is going to bring up this Anna control surface here. Let's just double check this one as well in the mapping editor. There is often a few little hiccups that you need to go back and check. Okay, so here you can see what the problem is here. Rather than having selected track, we have a specific channel name instance over here. And this is an issue with using the right-click command that we did initially. So you should probably stick to doing the function browser instead. So rather than doing that, we wanted to say edit channel settings. And notice now that this is the selected track only. So if we click there, edit channel settings, apply mapping, notice it's now set that to selected track. So it's now a variable rather than a specific track name. So in that case now we should be able to get edit instrument up. And once again, because we've remapped that now, it has set that to toggle on. We're going to turn that off. And we should be good now. So there we can move to the next track and open up that one. We can turn on our low cut, high cut frequencies for that channel. We can mute, solo, etc., etc. Those mute and solo ones will probably also need to be set to the correct toggle states. Go here and once again turn the toggle off. Toggle off. So that's pretty much it. That's how you would set this up. There are some additional features that you can do as well. What I would suggest is at any given time that you're setting up controls like this, like we did with this page here, for example, if we go to the extra page now, a good option for this is to actually set up quick controls as well. So if we go to focus quick controls, we're going to go to this one. Let's set up QC1. We'll apply QC2, apply mapping, QC3, apply mapping, and so forth. QC4 on this, QC5 on that, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so now on this extra page we have our quick control settings. Okay, so we can change all of those as we need. The reason why I say you should do this is because there's a new feature as well. The quick controls have always been in Cubase. They always used to be down here at this section, and these ones don't function anymore. There we go. Actually, some of those are functioning, and that's a switch currently. So that these do work fine, but also on the actual Anna interface now, you'll notice that you have a little QC button up at the top here, and this is super handy. You can just enable that now. And you'll see you have all the mapping automatically put in here. And it's really quick. It's a bit like complete control now to actually adjust these. If you go and click on this over here, you can now go and select any new parameter from Anna 2 to assign to this one in this quick control slot. You can also just go to learn mode. So you'll see that highlights QC1, and we can just change one of these. So we've got the master frequency there, for example. And let's say QC2, we want to add some filter controls there. We'll do attack, decay, sustain, decay, sustain, and release. And let's maybe do, we can do something like FM controls there too. If we wanted to, we could do the drive for the filter, and let's do resonance for filter 1. So super quick and easy to set up controls for specific instruments now. Hit unlearn, and now your QC controls will automatically do whatever you want these ones that have been set up here to do on your synth. So really nice, quick and easy way to get around third-party instruments inside of Cubase. And this will also obviously apply to effects as well. So we can go in, the stock effects, for example, we'll do something like dual filter, which is a really simple effect. The stock effects will be pre-mapped most of the time. If we open that up and once again hit the QC button here, you'll see we've got position and our resonance for the filter automatically selected. And facing me back. And there you have it. And again, this doesn't just, it's not limited to the built-in effects. It's any effect plugin that you can think of. We can open up a different filter, for example, the filter sim from Arturia, for example. Yeah. This may not be mapped automatically though. You may need to set these up. But again, it's pretty quick, just like we did with Anna. We can just hit the QC button and you'll see this one's on off. We may not want that, so we may want to put this one there. Maybe that one is going to be resonance instead. And there you have it. That's basically how the QC controls work. Super, super handy to have those set up as an option on your controller, because it just gives you control at your fingertips whenever you need it. And just extends this from the sort of Cubase functions like the track controls that we set up initially right into any VST plugin that you're going to be loading into Cubase. Great, so that is a MIDI remote inside of Cubase 12. Let's move on to the next video. I'll see you then. Cheers.
Thanks everyone for watching. We really appreciate all the support from you guys. If you love this video, then smash a like. And if you want to be notified about new videos, hit the subscribe and notification buttons. Peace!